It all started with a simple mix-up. One of those moments you laugh about later, or so I thought. She walked into the coffee shop, greeted me like an old friend, and immediately launched into conversation as if we'd known each other for years. At first, I played along, assuming she'd realize her mistake soon enough. But she didn't, and neither did I, at least not right away. That moment spiraled into a series of increasingly awkward encounters, each more cringeworthy than the last. Tonight, I want to confess how mistaken identities turned my life upside down, and what I learned about myself in the process. Because sometimes, pretending to be someone you're not can lead to surprising revelations. When she called me by another name, I froze. My mind raced, trying to figure out who she thought I was. Was it someone I resembled? Someone I vaguely reminded her of? Whatever the reason, I couldn't bring myself to correct her, not yet. So I nodded, smiled, and played along, hoping she'd eventually realize her error. As she spoke, recounting stories of our past adventures, I found myself caught between guilt and curiosity. Guilt for perpetuating the lie, but also curiosity about this alternate version of myself, a man who seemed confident, adventurous, and charming. For a brief moment, I even enjoyed it. But deep down, I knew I was walking a tightrope, balancing deception and discovery. The situation escalated quickly when she invited me to meet her friends. What was supposed to be a casual hangout turned into a full-blown charade. I introduced her to my own group of friends, feigning familiarity, while silently praying no one would ask too many questions. The tension was palpable. My friends exchanged puzzled looks, clearly wondering why I hadn't mentioned her before. Meanwhile, she effortlessly slipped into conversations, referencing inside jokes and shared experiences that left me scrambling to keep up. Each passing minute felt like an eternity, and every laugh or smile felt forced. Yet instead of ending the charade, I dug myself deeper, unable to admit the truth without risking humiliation for both of us. Denial became my shield. It's harmless, I told myself. Just a little misunderstanding. It'll blow over soon. But deep down, I knew better. Every detail she shared about our supposed history weighed heavily on me, forcing me to scribble notes and rehearse responses in private. I convinced myself that prolonging the charade was easier than facing the awkwardness of admitting the truth. After all, how do you tell someone you've been pretending to be someone else? Would she feel betrayed? Embarrassed? Furious? The fear of confrontation kept me silent, even as the web of lies grew more tangled. Looking back now, I realize how selfish I was, prioritizing my comfort over honesty. A breaking point came during a meeting with her actual friend, a woman who genuinely knew the person she thought I was. As they reminisced about old times, I sat frozen, nodding mechanically and offering vague responses whenever prompted. Her friend began asking pointed questions, details I couldn't fake without exposing myself. Panic set in as I realized the jig was up. The weight of my deception pressed down on me, suffocating and undeniable. When her friend finally asked, "Wait, are you sure you two have met before?" I wanted to sink into the floor. The look of confusion on her face mirrored my own internal turmoil. That moment shattered the fragile illusion I'd built, leaving me exposed and ashamed. Confessing the truth was terrifying. I waited until we were alone, sitting side by side on a park bench, surrounded by the muted colors of an overcast day. Taking a deep breath, I admitted everything: the initial mistake, the charade, the guilt that had consumed me ever since. Her reaction was a roller coaster of emotions: shock, hurt, anger, and finally, reluctant understanding. She admitted she'd suspected something wasn't quite right, but had chosen to ignore it, unwilling to confront the awkwardness herself. Sitting there, watching her process the truth, I felt a strange mix of relief and shame. relief for finally being honest, but shame for letting the situation spiral so far out of control. Therapy became my safe space, a place where I could unpack the layers of guilt and embarrassment that had consumed me. Through our sessions, I learned that vulnerability isn't weakness, it's courage. Admitting you've made a mistake, that you let fear dictate your actions, that takes strength. Slowly, I began to rebuild my sense of self-worth, learning to trust not just others, but also myself. The journey wasn't easy. It was messy, painful, and often exhausting, but it was worth it. For the first time in years, I felt whole again. Rebuilding trust required humility I hadn't been willing to show while hiding behind a lie. When I reached out to my friends, I braced myself for judgment or ridicule, but instead, they listened patiently, expressing disappointment but ultimately forgiving me. I apologized sincerely, not just with words, but with actions, being more present, showing up consistently, proving that I was committed to change. It wasn't easy. Trust takes time to rebuild, but over weeks and months, we found common ground, setting healthier boundaries and fostering mutual respect. Healing isn't linear, but it's worth the effort. Through this experience, I've learned that authenticity is beautiful. It's what makes us human. Pretending to be someone I wasn't robbed me of the chance to embrace my flaws, to grow through struggles rather than hide from them. Writing in my journal has helped me process years of suppressed emotions, confronting patterns of avoidance and self-deception. Each page brought clarity, each sentence a step closer to healing. For the first time, I understood that vulnerability isn't weakness, it's courage. And though the road ahead won't always be easy, I'm ready to face it as my true self. Today feels different, not because everything has changed, but because I've started seeing things differently. Mistaken identities taught me more than just the importance of honesty. They showed me how fragile our perceptions can be. For so long, I feared being exposed, judged, or misunderstood. But now, standing here on this rooftop, watching the city lights flicker to life, I realize that authenticity isn't about perfection. It's about embracing who you are, flaws and all. Life is messy, unpredictable, and often awkward. But it's also beautiful when lived genuinely. Thank you for listening to my story.